Let's talk to James Heale, Political Correspondent at The Spectator. James, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Keir Starmer returns at some point today, but not in time to do Prime Minister's questions, unfortunately. So he won't be able to be put on the spot by Kerry Badenoch about the farmers' dispute yesterday. They're coming at him from all sides on this. A lot of people, including Jeremy Clarkson, saying, just admit that you were wrong and back down. Don't think they're going to do that, though, do you?
No, I don't. And I think that it's almost sort of the tragedy in the sense of both sides have dug in, and it's really become a test, I think, of the government's political will, its mettle. And it shouldn't be like that, really, because, frankly, this is not a seismic issue. This isn't like the miners' strike. The authority of the state isn't on the line here. So those comparisons are off. This is a revenue-raising measure to get £500 million into the exchequer. For all that, it seems a lot of hassle and a lot of headaches for not that much money.
Yes, but that's the point. All of these measures that the government is being raked over the coals for which they are refusing to kind of, do anything other than stand over and to justify. The pensioners, winter fuel allowance being taken away. We learned this morning 100,000 pensioners now possibly falling below the poverty line, fuel poverty for them. As the snow's falling all over the country, they're worried about putting their heating on. Same with the farmers. The amounts of money involved are so small compared to what they regard as a £22 billion black hole, that it wouldn't keep the NHS afloat for more than a couple of days. Put the pensioners and the farmers' money together, and it's not even 2 days' worth of the NHS.
You got it spot on, and I think, Mike, it's also worth pointing out there's a comparison between both these policies have been kicking around in the Treasury for years. The Treasury loathes pensioners, and they would love to get rid of the triple lock. The Treasury also is very sceptical about farming land. They don't like really DEFRA, and basically what Labour's done, they've come in and it's an inexperienced, it's a new government. They've looked around for some revenue-raising ones. They've got all these bright civil servants, the Treasury saying these are great ideas, and they've picked up and run with it. And I think on both issues, Mike, there's a sense of perhaps of a bit of betrayal. I mean, Labour obviously made a huge effort to win over the so-called grey wall of elderly voters before the election, taking out big ads in the Express, etc. And on rural voters as well. And you had before the election Steve Reed, the DEFRA spokesman, saying there wouldn't be any inheritance tax changes. What do? The very first budget, 4 months in, and they do this. And so it's unsurprising in that sense of anger. They hadn't prepared the public for this, and I don't think they've carried the public necessarily on this either.
No, and also just the optics generally of Keir Starmer flying around the world. I mean, even Dan Hodges, before he slightly lost the plot about the national insurance hike, which is another problem for Keir Starmer. The optics of him sort of sitting in a room with Justin Trudeau, sort of date night with Justin Trudeau, glass of beer, some nice comfortable shoes and a possible cardigan or two, sitting there chatting about how great it is to be a modern man, and whether they understand the use of the new, lexicography that's coming out of Gen Z. And it just, Britain is in a bad way, and he's over there in Rio doing what exactly?
Well, I mean, I always think it's very difficult to look statesman-like in front of the Brazilian flag. I mean, for me, it always sums up sort of Ronaldo, Ronaldinho kind of footballers, etc. Right. But he was there yesterday giving it the big un. I also think, it sort of echoes perhaps slightly. I mean, for the older listeners and viewers will be Jim Callaghan arriving back in 78 with a big smile from the Caribbean, and Crisis, What Crisis was the famous Sun headline. I think the danger is that, first of all, I mean, how much are these meetings actually helping our cause? Obviously, he's got to do a lot of them. But second of all, I think it's the optics contrast. We're going into winter, and as you say, people will try and make a contrast there and say, how much is he focusing on the detail here?
But people have said to me, wouldn't it look better for Britain and for Keir Starmer if some of these world leaders were coming to him? I mean, I appreciate, there's a G20 meeting that maybe he has to go to, but he didn't have to go to COP29. He certainly didn't have to take 470 people with him, just to get, a nonsensical, ludicrous pledge about cutting our emissions by 81%, which nobody believes anyway.
Well, I mean, of course, he did have the first summit here, which was the European Political Community at Blenheim Palace, and that was Oxfordshire. Right. And I think, Mike, there's a slight danger, which is Labour came in, and this summit had been months and months in the planning. There were loads of announcements stored up, and it was great. It worked really well because it was lots of money. It was a lovely country house, Churchill, where he was born there, Blenheim Palace, lovely place. And I think the danger is you therefore think every summit's as productive as that, as important as that, and it's actually not, and it's actually a rare thing for Britain to hold a summit. And that's why I think some of these trips, perhaps, I think that no wonder political opponents are trying to make capital out of it.
Yeah, exactly right. Because, as I say, it's just not a great look, and even people within, I mean, Jason Grove's got a piece in the Mail today, even people within the Labour organisation are now saying, actually, it's starting to cut through. We're starting to hear people complaining about the fact that, Starmer's never here. They basically, don't want him to be away all the time.
I'll tell you why also. It's also Prime Ministers love foreign policy because they can do things quickly, they can pull a lever, they can do a speech, you can cut through. Whereas NHS, big, difficult things, it take a long, long time. It's like the super tanker of government. It takes a long time to see NHS progress. We're talking years, whereas foreign policy, it's days. And so no wonder he wants to stand there. My question is, of course, I'm not sure how much that helps. I think Rishi Sunak, for instance, was very good on foreign policy, and yet actually didn't win a single vote come the election.
No, absolutely right. James, we've got to run. Thanks very much indeed. James Heale, political correspondent at The Spectator. It's not going well, is it? It's not going well at all.